Yo, hello everybody, and welcome back to the newest episode of the Pixelists. I'm Will, that's Blake, and we like to talk about all things nerdy, and today that means a little Critical Role. Episode 14.
14,
yeah. I mean, I was trying to think if there's any more to say in this intro, but I don't really think so, unless you have anything.
Yeah, I got something to say.
Hit him with it.
The Witcher video, it's coming. We just always get to say that now.
It's going to be our new thing.
I don't think there's an episode this Thursday. We don't think there is.
There's not. I actually just saw that they tweeted about it.
Great. Perfect. So we are going to put out our favorite fan theory video. It'll be coming this weekend. We're also going to be, I think, putting out our final Vox Machina reaction video. And shout out to all those who were able to make it, the watch party. That was really fun. So
yeah, I'm sad. We might have to think of like other potential stuff to do that for, because it was fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no other announcements from me. So
alrighty, yeah. Well, I guess let's just dive right into this then.
This is the shortest intro ever. Wow, look at us.
Here we go.
We watch every episode. They're like, finally.
I actually do have one more thing, so I'm ruining it now.
Okay.
But for those of you that enjoy those Easter egg videos, I haven't put them out yet for episodes 10, 11, and 12 of Vox Machina, but getting started on those today. So maybe episode 10 out today, and then the 11 and 12 soon, hopefully.
Yeah, those are really fun, by the way. I'm really looking forward to the latest one.
Thanks, man. Yeah, they're fun to put together. It's been fun to kind of dive back into the old campaign to like find the comparison videos and stuff. But anyway, I digress. We're here to talk about campaign 3 today. So if you're new to us, we like to recap each episode to help everybody stay up to date. So we're going to do that now, and we also cut that out and host that separately on YouTube for those of you that just are trying to get the recap so you can watch live. So if you're watching that video, hello. If you're interested in hearing Blake's and I's theory crafting thoughts, reviews of the episode, that is in our longer podcast form, which we will link to as well.
Our totally biased reviews.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we loved it. What else is new? But yeah, you can check that out.
If there ever comes a day where we're like, we hate it, that's going to be a big deal. So
that's a bad episode.
Right.
So having said that, let's jump into what happened on this week's episode 14 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. And this episode opens up with the sort of outro of the previous episode where Ashton and General Ratanish of the Paragon's Call are heading out to have their slap fight, their duel, if you will. And this fight, I actually felt pretty good for Ashton at first because he was rolling quite well.
Yeah.
He also raged, and we got some more insight about he does have 4 different kinds of rages. He had to roll a d4. He didn't get the right rage. He said, that's going to be useless, but didn't really specify what that was. But the two of them are just doing unarmed strikes against each other. We also find out that General Ratanish is also a barbarian, or excuse me, is that right?
Yeah. Or at least he can rage.
Right,
whatever that means.
He rages, and it seems that his rage is like a fire-based rage. Which, by the way, I'm really liking this style of, every rage having its own certain kind of flavor to it.
Yeah.
And he's just walloping on Ashton. They're both rolling really well. In fact, Ashton rolls a natural 20. Ratanish rolls a natural 20. Neither one of them is really missing the other person. But about probably 3 or 4 rounds into it, Ashton's getting pretty spent, and I think Matt has a moment where Ratanish is just, I think he says he's still looking full of vigor, or like really just looks fine, which Matt, if you haven't watched a lot of D&D, he usually gives kind of little clues as to how beat up the enemy is. And he's basically like, yeah, he looks good. And that's when Ashton's like, oh man, oh no, like this is not good. They fight a little bit more. Ratanish actually starts getting more and more aggressive with his attacks. And there's one turn in particular where he sort of knocks Ashton to the ground and then takes his head and like drags it across, I think, the ground or the concrete or something. Just this very visceral turn. And it's actually enough to knock Ashton out. The scary part is, remember, when you're knocked out, you have to do your death saving rolls.
Right.
And if you take if you roll a natural 1, you get 2 death fails, and if you get 3, you're dead permanently.
Ooh.
So what happens is Ratanish takes Ashton's body and throws it over like to his guards, and Ashton rolls a natural 1. And there's sort of like this hush that immediately like, oh no. So he has 2 death rolls. And fortunately, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was F.C.G. or someone was like, okay, I just pushed through the crowd and I'm here to help them. And thankfully, Matt even had like the Paragon's call bodyguard dudes being like, yeah, you've kind of beat him up. Like, let's make sure he's okay. Which Ashton was like, I do not want to spend my weekend creating a new character. Like, not again.
Yeah.
So, because apparently he died in the previous campaign. So news to me. But
Maybe.
Anyway, spoiler for you there. But anyway, once the fight's kind of subsiding, they kind of go back to remembering their original mission, which was we're supposed to be finding out who's part of the Shonde Quorum. And so what ends up happening is Orum's kind of, with his high perceptions kind of waddling around, trying to kind of catch like extra gossip. But he rolls poorly, and so he's not really able to parse like what certain comments mean. Unfortunately, like he's kind of out of his depth. Laudna actually notices a conversation happening, sort of like after this duels happen. There's a bit of like an admiration for the Paragon's call, most because Ratanish is like, this is what you can expect from us in your town. Like if you want to be protected. And so Gavis, who's sort of like remember he's the speaker of the Shonde Quorum, the party, Laudna in particular, notices this woman who's sort of talking to him, and they're sort of pointing and motioning at Ratanish. And she starts to wonder, like, could this be one of the members of the Shonde Quorum? And so this person is, oh man, what is her name? I remember her last name was like Shoshanish or something, and everyone made fun of it.
Let's see.
I should have had her name in front of me.
Is this the lady where she claims to be Derolo?
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to the name. I can't remember her name yet. She's only in it for just a brief moment, but her last name is something like Shoshanish or something because everyone laughed about it. But she introduces herself as Lorelei Derolo, and then immediately is like to everyone else, she's like, guys, I'm just joking. Like I'm making this up. Because everyone at the table was like, what? There's another Derolo? Like, wait, what is this? Is this like a big reveal? Rolls very poorly on her deception check, as is the case in this whole ball thing. And Shoshanish is like, I've never heard of Lorelei, but the Derolo, sure, that's interesting. And Laudna actually directly asks, like, or it says, yeah, and you're part of the Shonde Quorum, right? And the woman's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Conversation doesn't really go anywhere, and she sort of like just kind of blows her off and is like, all right, see you later. Speaking of gossip, though, Fern is also adding to the gossip by telling people, and Ashton tries this too, by saying, because they're both barbarians, claiming that Ratanish is Ashton's dad. And Fern is even like, no, really, he is his dad, but as is the case, rolls really poorly. And the people who are like watching this are like, they look nothing alike. What do you mean they're related? So it doesn't go anywhere. Chetney finds Dorian and says, hey, your brother was in the bathroom, and here's like what's been happening. I think he might be in trouble. And so, interestingly enough, a lot of the parties kind of end on this conversation, and Imogen basically makes Fern promise that she won't go check on it by herself. And Fern, in typical chaotic neutral, is like, I promise. But it's totally going to.
Yeah.
So F.C.G. and Dorian are both like, we better go with you. And Ashton, who I think, frankly, Taliesin was a bit rattled of his death saves.
Yeah.
For the rest of the episode, he's very passive. It's kind of like, you guys go ahead. Ashton actually sits down with General Ratanish at a dinner table, and they kind of have sort of like this mutual admiration of, hey, yeah, that was really nice. And Ashton tries to lie about what his name is, rolls poorly again, and Ratanish isn't really buying into it, but he does have this respect for his anonymity and just sort of like it's like a respect of his craft of like, hey, you take this kind of stuff seriously, like you don't reveal who you're working for. Like I kind of admire that. And even actually offers him a job if he ever wants it. So he does have one small detail. Basically, Ratanish confesses that he knows that Ashton and whoever Ashton's with was partly responsible for the destruction of the moon tower, because he even has a line like pointing to the mask where he says, well, my advice is if you basically destroy city property, I wouldn't show up like at one of the most high profile events with like the most obvious like giveaway as to you being involved. Which is funny considering Ashton, how many times he says, we're so bad at criming. Like, come on, guys. Moving things along, Quorum does spot two characters who are entering the ball, who Matt refers to as green cloaks because of the green cloaks that they wear. And it's revealed that these are sort of like detectives of Marquette, that they're sort of like famously or maybe even infamously known across Marquette as being like the high profile detectives. All that to say, Dorian, Fern, and I think Quorum decide to go back and try to track down Dorian's brother. The guards are like, sorry, you can't come back to this back room. And Dorian and Fern are like, we have to pee. And not a very good roll again. And so the guards are like, we're going to escort you. I think either Laudna's there too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, she is.
Because when they actually go to the bathroom, Laudna does, I think, minor illusion and has like the sound of like a woman's voice in the distance, which causes the guards then to rush out, run to the room that we had seen the Shade Creepers and Emoth in, and then the party quickly follows after and can hear what sounds like guards dying on the inside. They walk into the room, and in a horrific scene, Lady Emoth is sort of like, where are you guys going? She's stuck to the ceiling like a spider, drops down in the doorway, blocking them from leaving. And that's where we go to break. So you want to take it from there?
Yeah. It's just so very grudge and creepy with how Matt described her.
Yeah.
So after the break, we basically pick up with this encounter starting. But the rest of the group, because they're like, the party is split right now.
Right.
But the rest of the group is kind of noticing that the other half of the group is gone. And I think Imogen realizes that they're not in range of her telepathic communication. So they're like, let's go make sure they're okay. And so they start heading toward the rooms as well. But meanwhile, Matt has the ones that are there roll initiative. And it's a pretty long combat, at least in real time, not necessarily in game time. But a few things happen. So first of all, Chetney is able to grab his chisel that he stored within F.C.G. So he's got his weapon, he like immediately draws it across his chest or his palm. And
wasn't there like something where like F.C.G. is like going like, and Matt's Matt's like, you don't have to make the sound. You can just.
Yeah, that was great. And so combat begins. We've got Lady Emoth and all these Shade Creepers, and the two guards that they had sent in there before them, they're on the ground, either unconscious or dead already. And F.C.G. casts calm emotions on some of the Shade Creepers to try to keep them docile. Fern summons Mister to the fight. And when Mister gets summoned, he actually does like this AoE fire damage. And
Right.
Fern does it in range of the two guards that are like already unconscious. So they get hit even more, which,
She's like, they're probably dead anyway.
Yes, he's like, oops.
Yeah.
So, and meanwhile, we're having a couple rounds of combat, but meanwhile, Orem and the rest of the party are close enough to see something's going on. I think Orem even like sees Emoth or something skittering on the ceiling, so he like makes a sprint to try to get there, and the rest of the party rolls initiative. And we're told basically that these two guards like aren't gonna make it, and Matt's just like diving the dagger deep, saying that like, yeah, his name was Russ, his birthday was tomorrow, he's about to get a promotion.
Yeah,
And,
doesn't F.C.G say like he sees like a picture on the wall that says employee of the month?
yeah. So that Chetney decides to jump over one of the shade creepers and get to the other guard, so not Russ. And he takes that green potion that they bought from Marwa and kind of dumps it down the guard's throat. And Chetney's like, okay, quick, listen, like there's a lot's going on here, but we're on your team, so like don't freak out. And then he just transforms into a werewolf like right in front of this guy. And the fight continues. And just a couple interesting things. Was one, we learn, which I'm sure D&D people already knew this, but I learned that Chetney only takes half damage from non-magical or non-silvered weapons, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And Imogen uses Fey Step, which we're told is from her Fey-touched feet, so she picked that up. And fight continues. Emoth eventually starts to look rough, so she attempts to flee, and she's screaming, she'll help me, she'll help me. And so she runs into the next room, and Chetney chases her, and she's moving a bed aside to try to go down one of these like shade creeper tunnels. And so the rest of the party is trying to catch up as well. However, Emoth is able to use I think Matt called it a slippery dash, which is like something she has, which is able to let her get away without taking attacks of opportunity. So she is able to escape down this dark hole. And so at this point, combat's kind of over and the party's kind of reconvening. They go and talk to that guard that Chetney gave the potion to, and we find out his name is Do Not, and he's, which, of course they gave Matt a hard time for.
Yeah, I think she was like, do not. And then Matt later is like, yeah, he's the guard you made fun of,
Yeah, he's like, I hate you guys.
And then the other guard, Russ, is dead, and they're like, no, like we killed the guard that we made up. It's too good. Anyway.
So Do Not is like, they basically fill him in on what's going on, that, they came to help. And he's like, well, who are you guys? Who are you here with? And they say that they don't want to like give it away necessarily. So I forget who it was, but somebody just says,
Imogen.
Oh, we're here for the deceased Bertrand Bell. Like that's who we're representing. And, not in this exact moment, but a little bit later, Imogen finally does introduce them as Bell's Hells. So we potentially finally have a group name. But Do Not tells them that this was Headmaster Grease Alakritos' room, that all this was going down in. And also, meanwhile, Orem has decided to tie a rope and kind of go down this hole to see if he can like see what's going on down there. So that's kind of happening while they're all talking. But meanwhile, outside, Dorian hears Cyrus's voice, his brother, and he has been captured by the Green Seekers and is basically being taken in. So Dorian's like, oh God, I gotta help my brother. And so he and I think Laudna kind of rush out immediately, while Orem kind of comes back up from this hole, and quickly the rest of the party follows as well. So outside, Cyrus is being drugged through the ballroom, in handcuffs, taken by these Green Seekers, and Gavis runs up and, announces that, oh, look, the magnificent Green Seekers have caught this burglar that was stealing things in the back chambers. Like, we carry on now, nothing to see here. Dorian's freaking out. He's like, Laudna, do something. Like, we got to do something. So she casts darkness up at the top of this ballroom. And so, like, the chandeliers start getting, like, enveloped in this darkness. But almost immediately, someone else dispels it. And so Dorian's like, okay, like, sorry, guys. And he takes a smoke grenade out of his bag and just chunks it towards his brother. So that starts going off, and he basically takes advantage of the chaos, runs straight into it, and runs straight into one of the Green Seekers that has his brother. And so he immediately just casts Charm Person on this guard and is successful. And at that same time, the other Green Seeker gets taken out by Esteros in the smoke, who has like come in to help him out and basically like levels them. And so then Dorian makes a nat 20 persuasion roll to be like, hey, like, give me the prisoner, like, I'll take them from here. And since it was a nat 20 and they're charmed, he's successful. So he gets Cyrus, and Esteros like hits the other guard again to make sure that they're not, causing any issues. And so then Dorian casts invisibility on Cyrus, and amongst all this confusion is able to walk out with his brother in tow. And meanwhile, Laudna has like gotten on all fours and cast, I think, Dread Presence or whatever it's called, and is just basically causing another huge distraction to try to help him get out. So all the guards, seeing Laudna do this, think she's the one that's, causing all this commotion. So they start running up to her. But do not at this time runs out of the back room and is like, wait, she just helped me. She's not the one that's doing this. Like, they're the good guys. And the guards are like, okay, but they're definitely like taking notes of the whole party. So they do let the party leave, but they're definitely on high alert about it. So everyone makes it back to the carriages, makes it back to Esteros's house, and they basically talk over the events of the night. And Cyrus reveals that he was just there trying to make money to pay off his bounty. The Corsairs had business with Lady Emoth in the past, and she needed somebody for this. And they thought Cyrus was perfect since he, comes from a noble background and had to play a noble in this, job they were doing. Mm-hmm. So they thought, Cyrus would be perfect. And he says their goal was just to embarrass some of the Mahan houses. And he said that Lady Emoth told him she had a great treasure hidden, and that after they successfully did this job, she would split it with them. And he also revealed that the lady she was working with was apparently her mother. If you recall, she was shouting like, she'll help me during the fight. Right. And he said, yeah, she was always talking about her mother and like going to see her mother, apparently. The Green Seekers, we find out, were after him because they were investigating the attack on the Moon Tower. So they actually had mistaken Cyrus for Dorian, and that's why they were there. So they're unpacking all of this, and basically everyone's like, yeah, Cyrus, you got to get out of here. And Esteros offers him the use of his airship. He's like, it's flying out tomorrow morning. Like, we can sneak you on there and just get you out of Drusar. And he's like, but it's got to be like tonight before daybreak. And he also notes that, hey, Dorian, this offer extends to you because, you and your brother look so much alike. There's a lot of heat out for somebody that looks like you. So like, you're in just as much danger as he is, essentially. So reluctantly, they all kind of agree that, yeah, that does make the most sense. So Dorian and Cyrus are going to get smuggled on the airship and head out of town. And the rest of the session is basically the party saying goodbye to Dorian. And he does retrieve the sending stone from his brother Cyrus and gives it to Quorum so that they have a way to communicate to each other. And Fern also gives Dorian a necklace with the mimic tooth on it to remember them by. And it's just, a lot of in your feels moments. Dorian says, he finished the song he crafted for Bertrand, but he's not going to play it. He'll play it for them the next time they meet. So they finish saying their goodbyes and head to the carriage, which is going to take them to the ship. And the last little detail we get is Dorian apparently like hangs the boat Chetney made for him like out the carriage window, and a little boy runs up and snatches it. Yeah. and that's where the session ends.
Yeah. Oh, it hurts. It hurts.
I know, man. Yeah. It was rough.
So that is our recap of episode 14. If you want to check out the full video, down in the comments below. Otherwise, yeah, man.
I mean, that's a great place to start, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we always do our what'd you think of the episodes. We can do that first. Yeah.
Awesome. I thought Robbie, his last like big series of events, it was very tense. I mean, it looked like there was no way for him to help his brother without screwing himself over. Him going into the smoke, having the smoke grenade, I think from EXU, I think is where he got it from.
I was wondering if that was the case because I didn't remember him picking one up.
Yeah, I think it's from EXU. I think he even said this is my last like thing that I picked up from EXU. But yeah, you could just feel the tension, and then the Nat 20 roll on getting his brother out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone just erupted and like freaked out over it. I mean, that was an awesome moment. And yeah, the goodbye was just, my gosh, man, I was so bummed.
Yeah.
He is absolutely one of my favorites. I mean, they all are. They're all awesome.
Yeah.
But oh man, which I just can't imagine going forward without him.
I know. I feel the same. Like, let's just dive into that. But of course, same here. Love the episode. Got me in my feels at the end. And I think, just since you mentioned it, that Nat 20, didn't he roll like really well? And they were like, dude, you have advantage. You have advantage. And he was like, I already rolled really well. And then he's like, okay. And he rolled the Nat 20. So that was crazy.
Yeah. It was an awesome moment.
But yeah, love the episode. But yeah, let's just talk about the Dorian thing, I guess, right now. Because, same, man. Like, it's, we've talked about this a little bit in past episodes when we were speculating on if he was permanent or not. Now we have our answer clearly, but it is just weird. Like, it's gonna be weird without him, since he's literally been there for every episode, you know. So I'm sad too.
Yeah, there's two things. For my wife, who started watching during EXU, she's never not known a table without Dorian Storm.
Yeah.
So I think it's really weird for her. It's weird for me because I didn't really watch seriously before EXU either.
Right.
But then on the flip side of that, he just had such a natural place at the table. You know, like, just naturally fit, so good, just so clever, fun, smart, like, knew like what to do. And you know, I'm just trying to imagine it. For me, it would be like one of the main cast people leaving. Just because his presence is just ubiquitous with you know, the main CR team, right? And so you know, we knew it was coming, but it just feels wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, like, I feel that way too, but especially people that are starting with campaign 3 that like have never experienced Critical Role. He's actually like more of a main cast member than others because of he was in EXU, you know? So like most attached to him in ways. But yeah, I mean, not that the details are important and not that we'll ever really know, but I assume it's not because anyone wanted it that way. I'm assuming he had other, you know, job obligations or, you know, this, that, and the other. But they did leave it open for him to come back, and, you know, I think he will. Now, I don't know if, like, maybe it's just always going to be little guest spots here and there as opposed to, you know, this 14 episode streak that we've had so far, but, you know, I don't think we've seen the last of him, hopefully, but it's definitely, like, I was getting really sad, and it's not going to be the same. I think it'll still be good. It'll just be, you know, it'll be a new normal kind of developing now.
Gonna suck. Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
It does open the table. It gives a little bit more room for other guest characters to come in.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a great part of the CR table is, you know, having those guest spots of people who are just really great fits. It gives them the opportunity to sort of beta test guests for like a future EXU season, if you will. We know Robbie's coming back for a 2-parter EXU thing. Don't really have any information on that. But yeah, man, I just want him back to the table. I think what feels bad is the implication I got was, while he may return, it's in the distance at best, because he was traveling back to Iman, and then for those of you who maybe you didn't watch EXU, the very quick and dirty of it is, in Iman they were working, the Dorian and the EXU crew were working with this thieves guild basically, and they double crossed them, and in double crossing them they had to get out of Iman. So that's what he means when he says, "Oh, I really can't go back to Iman." So, and I can't remember where he said he was going to go instead, but I just kind of envision like a random town in a random tavern, you know, being a bard, I guess. And so physically imagine to have him just like, you know, I'm going to go like down to the Hellcatch Valley. I'll catch up with you guys later. It was like, you're going to an entirely different continent, to a random city. That's, for me, is what felt really bad, because it kind of crushed my dreams of, you know, maybe he'll be back in like 20 episodes, or I don't know. But
I mean, I think he'll be back, but I do agree that it's probably going to be a while. But I do. So we have the EXU thing, which that did make me happy because I was really sad because I was like, who knows when we'll see him again. But then we immediately got that, like MCU Thanos will return moment with Dorian Storm will return. So, I mean, that, not that, I mean, I don't know if this is an appropriate place to talk about EXU speculation or not, but that made me excited, and it gave me a direction for where his stories are going to go. I don't, like you mentioned, like he might just be in a tavern doing bard stuff, but I think he's going to meet up with Dariax and Opal, and something's going to happen there, and it'll be interesting to see if it's related to the crown, if it's related to the plateau or what. But I think they said it would be 2 episodes, so I don't know if that means, you and I talked about this, I don't know if that means 2 sessions or what, but I think we'll get something there. And then what'll be interesting is where that leaves us. Like, where will Dorian be at that point? And then that might give us a better idea of when we might see him again.
It's a big departure from was it 8 episodes or 9 episodes?
8.
It's a big departure. I mean, for how much happened in EXU, I mean, a lot happened.
Yeah.
But to wind that down to 2 episodes, I'm really curious to see like how they do progress, like the overarching Exandria story. It's going to feel a little weird though, because I mean, Fern and Orym obviously can't be there.
Right.
I did wonder if they were going to kind of reunite Opal and Dariax, or if it's going to be an entirely new crew and Dorian is like the single connector.
That is true. That could be the way they go.
Because I kind of see EXU as like seasonal stories, these events happening all over, not just Tal'Dorei, but just all over Exandria, and maybe some subtle themes that connect them. I kind of think of like, the Walking Dead Telltale games, and then they did like another one that was like other stuff happening elsewhere. I think actually the Walking Dead series did this too, with like a spin-off series. That's kind of what I think might happen, but I'm definitely looking forward to any news on it, hopefully soon.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I definitely think EXU on the whole is probably going to be like more of an anthology like that, where
that's the word.
The seasons aren't necessarily connected. But at the very least, we know Dorian's going to be in it, so I think it's at least tangentially connected. But yeah, we might not see Opal and Dariax. I mean, it could just be like Cyrus and Dorian's adventures of trying to get back to the Silken Squall or just evade this heat. But like you mentioned, we're not going to have Fern and Orym. So I'm wondering if there's going to be like 2 brand new faces, like maybe played by 2 brand new guests or something. Or even if maybe Cyrus would have someone besides Matt playing him, if he's going to be like a focal part of it.
Or maybe there'll be like another like satyr, like I'm Hern, sister to Fern.
Dark Fern.
I'm Dorum. I'm Orym's brother. It's like the same actors.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
or you know what though? We're assuming this is like what's next for Dorian. It could be we know there was like a 9-month gap between the end of EXU. I mean, it could be
another time
it could be out of order. Like this happened in the 9-month gap, and so we do have Fern and Orym, and I think that might be a little strange for people who didn't like really stay on top of each episode to be like, wait, so now what's happening? But could do something like that too, I guess.
Yeah. I don't want to open this whole can of worms, but for those of you that have been following Blake and I, we enjoyed EXU, but we had our criticisms of it for sure. But that being said, like I'm really excited to see this, mainly because I want more Robbie Damon into my life. But I'm pretty excited for whenever that does come out, just to get those answers, but also just to see more of our boy Dorian Storm.
Yeah, I'll just say I know he doesn't watch this, but Robbie Damon, you are amazing, and I'm going to deeply miss you on the show.
Me too.
That's all I got to say about that.
We love you, Robbie.
We do. We love you, man. Okay. Isn't it weird how like we're only 14 episodes in, but it feels like so much of this campaign has happened? It really kind of blows my mind for like the scope. Like thinking we might get 150 episodes. You know, it's just like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
crazy to me.
I know we've had a lot of 5-hour episodes too, which I mean, that's including the break, that's including the intro reel and the outro reel. So a 5-hour episode is probably closer to 4. But anyway, let's just, we've had 14. Let's just say they were 3 hours each, even though it's probably more than that, right? So what is that? That 42 hours. So that's like 42 episodes, which is like 4 seasons of like an hour-long show.
Right.
So I mean, you know, even though there's only been 14, it definitely a lot has happened. It feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why I was waxing poetic on that, but just I agree.
Yeah. What else do you want to talk about from this episode?
Well, I know we kind of like put the Dorian thing to bed, but I did want to talk to you about something else that I just remembered. Is that he did have that natural 20 really clever moment of getting Cyrus out, right? I'm wondering what the other potential exits for him were, because I don't think that Matt, I mean, Matt didn't know he was going to try that or roll a natural 20. Like, I think that easily could have blown up in their faces and Dorian too gets arrested, you know? So just the curiosity in me is wondering, like, how are they going to write him off the show if things didn't go their way tonight, you know? Like, maybe they just both get hauled off to prison or, you know, something, and that was Dorian's exit, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what would have happened, because you could definitely sense the, like, this plan is hanging on by a thread sensation of, like, you know, Laudna tries the darkness spell and, you know, Matt just has the random NPC just, like, you know, poof.
Yeah.
It felt like there weren't really any options, and it felt like he didn't have any time either. And Dorian was like, sorry guys, I have to. It's our brother. So yeah, I was amazed by how they got through that, because it didn't seem like there was any other alternative.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, we know the whole, so if we take the Bertrand situation where, like, his death was essentially planned and it was all this orchestrated moment, I think there's elements of that here, but I don't think it was the same in that, like, I don't think Matt and Robbie talked about this smoke grenade thing, you know? So I think that Matt probably definitely had a few things in mind for where this needed to end. And I'm just repeating myself now, but I'm just very curious to know what those other options were. I mean, can you imagine if the goodbye, like, we didn't get the heartfelt moment of goodbye with the cast having the time to, like, say goodbye to Dorian, and it was just that, like, the green cloaks took him away?
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking of, like, all things considered, this is either, like, the best party ever, or it's like, man, we really got to get better at planning these things, 'cause a lot of stuff went down.
Just,
you know,
they won't, so don't get that in your head. It's gonna always be that way.
it was so much that happened and went wrong, and I mean, they barely made it through a handful of situations.
Yeah.
In the ring in particular, you know, it just was, yeah, nothing was really well executed, but hey, they did it. So unfortunately, not any closer to finding out any identities, which I think someone made the point in this episode, like, oh yeah, the reason we all came here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
If anything, they just, like, got more heat put on them, you know?
I was a bit confused parsing out Cyrus's placement during the Emoth encounter, because we know that Cyrus went to the bathroom. We know that Chetney went back. Lady Emoth had locked the door, and then maybe, am I making this up? I thought when he went back the second time, the lock had been broken and he could hear a commotion inside, which I assumed meant Cyrus and Lady Emoth were talking. But considering that he was nowhere to be found in the room, wasn't involved there, obviously he's not casually around shade creepers.
Yeah, because when he was getting drug out, he was like, I'm with Lady Emoth, so, like, he definitely didn't know anything that was happening with that.
Right. And so I'm thinking, why was the door lock broken? That thing was confusing to me. And then where was Cyrus during this whole thing?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Now I don't remember I remember the lock thing that you're saying, but I don't remember the details enough to know if what I'm about to say makes sense or not. But is it possible that the lock was broken because Lady Emoth broke it, because that wasn't her room. We find out that it was Grease's room. So maybe she broke the lock in order to get in there originally, or
Yeah,
something.
it's possible. It may be that I'm just combining details too, because I thought the first time Chetney goes in, she shuts the door and locks it, and then the lock's broken later. Maybe Matt said she just shuts the door, or maybe he just misspoke. It feels like this is like a section where like some details were a little flubbed because it like parsing it out, you're just like, okay, wait, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then again, where did Cyrus go after he went to the bathroom?
Yeah,
that's confusing.
Yeah, so I was wondering this too. My best guess is that, he was there to embarrass Mahan houses by stealing stuff or whatever. So maybe he was off in another room stealing stuff while Lady Emoth was going full Shade Creeper, because it seems like he didn't know that about her,
Yeah, it seems, I would assume maybe none of the Corsairs knew that about her.
Yeah.
But it's clear that her and Duggar have some common connection. But yeah, maybe Lady Emoth was like, hey, thanks for being here, buddy. Hey, go down there to that
Yeah,
room.
like you go do that one.
Yeah. Which, they're both fully capable on their own of robbing a room. Why bring in the Shade Creepers and all that stuff?
Yeah,
that's weird too.
Yeah, what was she doing? What, like, it? Yeah,
Like,
so
she can rifle through a drawer, so like, and the hole was tunneled to that room. So
Right.
there's something a lot, and I don't know, maybe if we're ever gonna get any more information there, but those details are a bit fuzzy and weird.
Yeah, and we don't know if as Cyrus claimed, it was to embarrass Mahan houses, so we don't know if that was the cover story, or that's what Armand kind of probably wants, because we know he's pulling all these strings. But whatever Lady Emoth was doing, was that also to embarrass Grease a la Kritos, or were they framing him for something?
Which, isn't he the person representing Ajit Dial?
He was with him. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, he was plus one.
The depth of their relationship, but he was
okay.
He's like the headmaster of like ancient histories of some school or something.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's any connection there. Like, why? Yeah. Again, like, were they just stealing from him? Because again, why would you need the Shade Creepers and stuff to do that? Or were they like, I don't know.
And wasn't Lady Emoth there with Armand as well?
Yeah. She came in with him.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot happening here that I'm wondering if just details got messed up and it was just oversight, or just things were misspoken, I guess, or if this is just a really clunky, cloudy set of details that in a few episodes we're going to be like, oh, okay, that's what was happening. So
yeah, I think the door lock stuff might have been just Matt flubbing, but I think everything else is intentional. We just don't have the full picture yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I loved Grease just in the little, like, the introvert conversation he had with Esteros.
Yeah.
I didn't imagine it to be too much deeper than that, other than like world building of having this, character. But now I think obviously there's more there. So I'm really intrigued by the fact that what possible role, not that he's playing a role, but why he's involved at all.
Right. Yeah. And Lady Emoth and her mama.
Yeah.
We think this is the way I took it was, I don't think Cyrus ever met her mother. So the implication I got was some sort of like, and I don't even know, the implication I got was that maybe Lady Emoth is there with Armand in some connected way, but that possibly like the whole Duggar goo thing is like maybe something separate entirely. I don't know if I see Armand as being like this common thing orchestrating everything. I mean, that could be the case. But the thing I was wondering for her mother was some kind of goo creature, who's like, gifted Lady Emoth and Duggar with the goo.
Yeah.
And, she affectionately refers to her as her mother, but is really like, crazy monster.
Yeah. I mean,
kind of what I got from that, but
I mean, I could see that. It makes sense. I mean, when she was like scared of dying, she was like trying to, like, she'll help me. That feels more than just like, oh, I want my mom. It feels like this is a powerful entity that could assist me type of thing. So I like
Yeah.
that maybe it is not her mom, but her mother, you know, I don't know.
Right.
Ugh. But yeah, I didn't get the impression that Cyrus ever met her either. So yeah, I think that could check out. Yeah, I'm very interested to know what Armand is connected to and what is potentially like another subplot that's happening kind of behind the scenes. Because I guess we really don't know we don't really have any answers for what Duggar was doing yet either. Presumably they're connected though, since they have the
Right.
same ailment or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and control over the Shade Creepers too.
Yeah.
So
Which we do know the Nightmare King is experimenting on people and creatures, so perhaps he's the one that turned them into whatever they are. Now that doesn't really check out for, I don't think they would refer to him as mother, but
right.
I feel like he's the only player that this even kind of makes sense for as far as
Maybe
experimenting.
Yeah. I wonder if the party regrets when she was trying to crawl down the hole, like trying to finish her off rather than trying to grapple her. Because Chetney had an opportunity. He did inflict wounds. It hit her really hard, but didn't finish her. And then someone else, I think, attacked her too, instead of trying to, restrain her.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope we get some more answers on this, and maybe if Armand is connected to it, maybe that ring will lead to something.
What was your take on because this all happened in the combat or at the end of it? Bell's Hells. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. I've just been wanting to have something, they kept joking about like we just need a little more time, but it's been like months.
Yeah, I got the implication that that Imogen was just like, okay, this is what we are, which you kind of needed someone to sort of do that because they had sort of, pitter pattered around a name for so long. So, but even after she said it, or later, I think Orm was like, are we the Bell's Hells? So I don't know if he was sold on it, but, and then I saw some random comments that were like, this is the best name that they could come up with. And I'm like, okay, they were called the Mighty Nine on the, NIEN, which, a lot of the stuff just fits after a while, but
yeah.
I think it's maybe a little bit too much pressure to have like this amazing name.
Yeah.
So I think Bell's Hells is fine. But
yeah, I think that's what it was. Is they had the first campaign 1, they already had the name. Campaign 2, it was kind of an accident. And then, so I think there was a lot of pressure, and that's why they couldn't commit. I think that there's definitely Laura didn't just make that up on the spot. Like I'm sure they've all been talking about this in like group chats for months, and that must have been one that they were like,
yeah,
maybe like a final 2 or something they were trying to pick between. So I think she just pulled the trigger.
Wasn't it also mentioned in a previous episode? Like, didn't they say something like that? Like maybe in the same episode they did like the focus comma group.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure.
I think it came up in some form, and they were like, okay, yeah, that's interesting.
I think because even when Bertrand first died, I know they were like tossing around ways to like honor him when they were trying to think of stuff. So I'm sure that one's been percolating for a while. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I heard it and was like, that is the greatest thing ever. But like you said, I think it's just like 50 episodes from now, when that's who they are and that's who they've been, it'll feel natural. And, just like Mighty Nine, the first time we heard it was like, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's the Mighty No.
Yeah.
it doesn't even make sense. So, but yeah, it's like the Mighty Nine. It does make sense now, but I don't really have much of an emotional attachment to like it has to be this or that.
Right.
I'd just be more happy if there was a name that they were sticking to at this point.
Yeah, me too. So I was just glad to finally have one.
Yeah.
But sorry, I just lost my notes. Other things I wanted to mention. One, I just loved the like bromance kind of that was building between Ashton and Ratanish, that they just were like loving it. And like I kind of didn't see that coming. Like I thought that regardless of who won after the duel, like there was going to be some stuff to deal with. And so I liked that, and I thought it was really interesting how he basically was like, hey, like, I know you were the one that attacked the moon tower, but he's like, but I'm not gonna, like, I don't give a shit about, the people that hired me or whatever. So like, I'll keep that safe or whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool. And I'm interested to see if maybe the relationship between the Paragon's Call and the party, how that develops. Cause I mean, seemingly the Paragon's Call is an entity that's going to be around and maybe,
Yeah.
like, they're going to have some more interactions with. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if that relationship makes any changes, based on them liking each other.
And I did get the implication that maybe this could be like a boss type figure later on, considering like their combat. I mean, he was pretty sturdy against Ashton.
Yeah.
But also we did get, I think I had thrown out like the theory maybe they were the rebranded Immortals. I did it again, Immortal Ivory Syndicate. I played too much Path of Exile, man, and so Immortal Syndicate stuck in my head. We did get confirmation though that it's probably not the case, because I think the name we were given, they were called like the Hellcatch something. I can't remember what, but so they were trying to rebrand from that. But it does feel like it's whatever Laudna or whoever said it in a previous episode that there's sort of a power play of these guys getting brought in to take over from the Wardens, and so yeah, I think you may be right. We may be seeing a lot more of him for them in the near future.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think they have clearly they don't have a good enough relationship where they're just like best buds and never going to butt heads. But I just think it's an interesting little dynamic now that at least he respects Ashton, which will be interesting.
Right. There was a comment, we had Ashton, have some really excited moments where he was like, that was fun. That was awesome. And then we saw later in the episode him being a lot more reserved and passive and very cautious.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this up because to me, this I just read this as Taliesin just being like, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Because he obviously didn't have a chance to take a rest after getting knocked unconscious. But I did see a comment, I don't know if it was on YouTube or Reddit, but someone said that if you pay attention, I want to throw this theory out to you and see what you think about it. But someone said if you watch Ashton carefully, you'll notice some very high highs, some very low lows, and just very large gaps in how his personality acts. And the person was basically saying that Taliesin is trying to act out like traumatic brain injury, which can cause like a flurry of different emotions. We know that Ashton, his brain was basically a big chunk of it was blown out. I like the theory from like the concept, but it feels a bit of a reach to me. What's your take on that?
I mean, that's really interesting. I hadn't like thought that, but I mean, and I don't know if I'm at a point where I'm saying like, yeah, I think that's what's happening, but I think that's possible. Like, I wouldn't put it past Taliesin or anyone to kind of dig that deep and do something like that. Like, they've done things on that level with their characters before, so I think it's interesting. I mean, if that turned out to be true, I'd be like, wow, that's awesome.
Like, wow, we said it here on the podcast.
Yeah,
first.
we were the ones that came up with it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it does
I mean,
feel a little early for sure.
Sorry, what'd you say?
It does feel early for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for my money, I think he's just being Ashton, and I don't know if there's necessarily that level of intention behind the mood differences.
Right.
But I think that would be really cool if there was. But yeah, for me, I think it was he kind of got a reality check of almost dying, and so that kind of tempered him down a little bit for the rest of the episode.
Yeah. All right, so happening next, I think this is a good time for the party to do the heist and make their way to the Heartmoor. It feels like there's a lot of heat around them. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's the natural progression. It kind of sucks that they're losing their most charismatic, deceptive member of the party,
right.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like that has to be what's next. Even not that this has any relevance at all, but Gianna was at the party, right? I think Ashton mentioned seeing her. So It'll be interesting. I'm interested to see that interaction because they clearly have to go speak to her to like get the official details and everything. So I want to hear what she has to say about the fact that he got into that duel and all the chaos because she seems like somebody that's in the know. So I think there'll just be an interesting discussion.
Definitely seems to relish in the gossip. So
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but I definitely think the heist is next. I'm really interested because the heist and the Loomis twins are this like the same place basically. So I think there's a lot of really juicy potential in heading that way, and I want to find more out about this celestial solstice and if the Loomis twins were maybe having that dream too, or what was going on.
The only weird thing is it has felt like the last several episodes, and like I said this before already, it feels like more has happened than the numerical 14 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like we're heading to like a pivotal climactic moment in the Dressar story. So while I feel like it makes sense for them to go to the Heartmore right now, it also feels like a bit of a weird drawback from a lot of these details popping up, which could just be it's a lot slower burn than maybe Matt. Maybe we've thought Matt was doing, but that's the only thing I'm thinking about. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, well, they really don't have any leads at this point, though. I mean, they have the Armand's ring, so that is something, but we don't really know how that's going to play out. Like, it might be 2 weeks before he goes and meets with the Nightmare King and they are able to find anything out there. But other than that, I mean, what else do they really have in Drusar right now?
Right. Yeah, you're right.
So I think it would be really interesting if like, we don't know exactly how long they're going to be gone if they do leave, nor do we know if they're going to come right back. Like this could lead to something else that takes them even further away. But I think it'd be interesting if like something happened while they were gone, like news reached them of like, something happening in Drusar.
I wonder if they'd come back and the Paragon's call has taken over or something. Like that's kind of what I would expect.
Or the brimstone have lifted the 5 spires into the sky.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, and I'm just curious to see where does it go for Lord Esteros too.
I'm worried for him still.
Me too. And so I'm wondering what happens from here for him.
Man, especially with the party. I mean, I'm sure Esteros has other irons in the fire as far as like people that could help him out, but the party gone, especially, hopefully he doesn't get attacked.
Yeah. So
still could be a vampire. I mean,
could be.
The ball happened at night. He wasn't out in the daylight or anything.
True. It's true. It could be. That's right. What else from this episode? Anything else?
I'm trying to think. Nothing really, I don't think. We talked about the Emoth, Dorian, Ratanish. I think we covered most of everything I wanted to.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think so for me too. I'm bummed to wait a couple of weeks. And for those of you guys who are waiting, that's why we got more content to fill your D&D hole.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so we have, what do we have coming? We got Legend of Vox Machina, final 3 episodes that Blake and I are going to talk about. I got my Easter egg videos hopefully coming out soon.
Yep.
We got the theory video.
Right.
Anything else? Witcher 2?
The Witcher. We probably need to do like a follow-up to our D&D campaign. Well.
We're playing tonight, so we're excited about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like forever. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, Blake and I, when we're in a D&D campaign together, both as players, and before session 1, he and I made a little Pixelists video connecting our characters' backstories because our characters are gonna know each other.
Right.
So we did that like a couple months ago, but we've only had 2 sessions, so like,
right,
it's we're not like holding out on you. We just haven't played very much still, but we're playing tonight.
Typical D&D fashion. We play in D&D, but not very often. So.
And I mean, hopefully we're playing tonight. Who knows? That there's still 5 hours for somebody to cancel.
Yeah. So anyway. All right. Well, thumbnail.
Oh God, I had an idea and it's just left me.
Yeah, okay.
Oh no. Oh yeah, it was just like being sad
Oh yeah,
because Robbie.
I was expecting like that's good.
You're expecting a lot more there, huh?
This idea be sad.
Just to be sad.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's I
It's
agree.
got
Yeah.
fluid. All right.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. We did.
Nice.
All right. Well, stay tuned, guys, and we'll catch you later. And don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at the Pixelists.
Yep.
So,
Alrighty, y'all. We'll see you next
All right.
time. Bye.
See ya.